What's going on, everybody? This is the Fantasy First Rounders. Billy, Ryan, Tom, and me, Chris, welcoming y'all in tonight. We're going to do running back battles. See y'all shortly. Wondering if we're live right now. Twitter is acting a little bit weird, but we're going to keep pushing forward. This is a little sea shanty by our own FF Peacock. Thanks, Miles. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. We are the Fantasy First Rounders. I'm your host, Chris Pinto at Aggie Kappa Sig. Tonight, we have something super duper fun. Last week, we went and talked about the running back situation in our consensus rankings. It kind of pushed us towards battling out what's going on. Yeah, I know Twitter is acting weird, isn't it? The link is up. Oh, it takes it to what? I don't know what that means, but there's 5 people watching right now, so it's got to be working, I guess, a little bit. But, guys, we're going to do a little arcade video-style action tonight. But before we get into that, Billy, Ryan, Tom, how are y'all doing? Let's walk everyone through the Belly Up Bowl or the St. Jude Bowl, and how's that going?
It's going good. We've got lots of people that have signed up. We're just trying to get everybody's payments. I'm sorry, guys, if you have sent an email. I know I've been busy. I think Billy's been busy too. We will get to that. We will get you in. If you'd like to skip steps, if you just want to PayPal $20 to fantasyfrlive@gmail.com with your sleeper name on there, that's where I'm putting people into the chat, and we will start to be getting divisions filled as soon as we get more payments in. But we're really excited. It's just been a busy week for me. I'm really excited to get this running full steam ahead.
Yeah, we're seeing your registrations. We're getting everybody on the list. Probably start reaching out later in the week or early this weekend for payment information. If you have registered, just sit tight. We'll get back to you. We're gonna get this thing rolling here pretty smooth. Just try to keep everything on track as we are a little early in the season. But register, click our link, check it out, and come join us for the St. Jude's Bowl. Bigger and badder than last year, and it was a great event to kick off last season. So looking forward to it big time.
Yeah, and already on mute with
Pinto's muted.
Pinto here.
Not even into the show yet. I'm already on mute. We will have some mock drafts and things like that for the St. Jude Bowl coming up, just so you know, scoring and format, things like that is a single quarterback league, and we will talk about that later. But guys, let's get into this. It's going to be pretty fun. I just want to jump into this. Everyone who's watching, do a little choose your fighter action tonight. Got the fatality action going on right there, showcasing a little bit of moves. So what we will do is show y'all who we're working with tonight. We got Miles Sanders versus Josh Jacobs, Michael Carter versus Trey Sermon, David Montgomery versus the one and only Najee Harris, AK-47 versus Nick Chubb, Zeke Elliott versus Antonio Gibson, ETN versus J. Rob, Javonte Williams versus Melvin Gordon, James Conner versus Chase Edmonds, Dalvin Cook versus the king himself, Henry, Austin Eckler versus my favorite, JK, the yes sir, no sir, I'm going to block all day for you, Dobbins. Choose your fighter, guys. This is going to be pretty fun. So let's get Tom, thank you so much for the graphics again, man. Great job.
Tom, killing it.
Excellent.
Trying to get better every week,
Incredible.
man.
So what we have first is Miles Sanders versus Josh Jacobs. At the bottom, you can see who is fighting for who. We will go to Ryan and Billy on the Miles Sanders side first.
Billy, you want to start it?
Yeah, I'll take it away, man. I'll let you close it. So Miles Sanders for me is a guy that I just can't quit, and I've tried. RB14 in PPR as a rookie, RB24 in his second year, but he did only play 12 games. But every time I end up just circling back to Miles Sanders, digging into the numbers, we did see positive growth or progression in fantasy points per game, attempts per game, rushing yards, and touchdowns in 4 less games, yards per carry up, targets per game's up. And he only caught 58.3% of his targets, which is much worse than his 79% catch rate as a rookie. So that 58% for running backs absolutely pathetic. It's really something that'd be hard to duplicate that poor, actually. So it's safe to assume that percentage will look more like what it did in 2019. His per-game pace would have been totaling around 1,150 rushing yards. That would have slotted him fourth in the NFL in rushing last year, right behind our boy Jonathan Taylor touchdown at 1165. So, and he would have been about 60 yards ahead of our other boy, free Aaron Jones. So I'm high on Hurts. Sanders had his best 3-game stretch of the season with Hurts under center, averaging 19 points per game over those 3 games. I just can't get away from this guy. Just circle him back. I have a lot of shares because I invested in him last year. So hopefully he stays on the field. And I just I don't see anybody really taking his workload away.
Yeah, I will start off by saying I am a Gainwell fanatic, so I could foresee something in the future if Sanders doesn't get off to a hot start, but I'm expecting a hot start from Sanders. I liked all of the improvements I saw in his game last year behind a junk garbage offensive line that was at third-string tackles all year. He still managed a 5.3 yard per carry average, like you were saying. That's a big deal to me. I see the explosiveness and the elusivity. This is a guy that, the talent is there. So when I'm looking at Miles Sanders, I'm thinking he's going to get, if he stays healthy, and let's be real, both of these guys have some injury concerns attached with them. But if he stays healthy, I think that he's going to have a better year with a healthy line, with a mobile quarterback that may take away some of his rushing touchdowns, but should make defenses a little more worried about the quarterback, might get Sanders free a little bit more. I do expect him to be better in the passing game. Hurts was garbage last year. It can't be that bad this year, right? So I do expect that to rise all boats, and I do expect Sanders to be once again in a potential RB1 guy, but for sure a high-level RB2 guy.
On the other side here, going for Josh Jacobs, I know that's probably a surprise to a lot of people. Obviously, the Eagles fan of the group here. And listen, I'm not down on Miles Sanders. That's not what this is. It's more of concerns with the Eagles offense, and I think the Raiders offense will be a little bit better. With Miles Sanders, I think that you're going to run into Jalen Hurts struggling passing the ball. You're going to see a lot of loaded boxes. You're facing Washington twice a year, who is probably one of the scariest front sevens in the league. So it kind of bumps Sanders down just a little bit for me. Jacobs, meanwhile, I think that he's shown the versatility. He's really kind of come into his own. Coming into the league, he wasn't known as a pass catcher, but he's actually done a very good job of it, increasing from 20 receptions his rookie season to 33 in his sophomore year. So he's really improved in that aspect, which in PPR formats is going to be massive, especially if he can keep doing that, which I don't see why he wouldn't. And I think that John Gruden coaching this offense is only going to get better and better. You have a few years before he hits that regression as a coach again and starts getting worse. So give it another 2 or 3 years, and that might become a concern.
Finally, I got you on the Josh Jacobs train, Tom. I was extremely surprised about that. Everyone knows my affinity for Josh Jacobs and his narrative, how he grew up, how he went to Alabama and then into the NFL from John Gruden. Absolutely love the kid. Here's what I'm looking at, though, guys. In my rankings, I do have Miles Sanders higher at 19 versus Josh Jacobs at 21. But currently, right now, from Underdog, ADP-wise, Miles Sanders is 31.5 and Josh Jacobs is 42. So the value at Josh Jacobs that you're getting is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, a 59% snap share. So even with Kenyon Drake coming into the mix, it's not going to hinder him so much. It might make him more efficient. All snaps aren't essentially created equal. He dominates at yards created. So even with the offensive line that Oakland does have, or I'm sorry, Las Vegas has. Wow. Miles Sanders only created 320 essential yards. Josh Jacobs, 446, fifth in the league. So that's pretty good. And speaking about elusiveness, Miles Sanders is elusive at 24% juke rate, but Josh Jacobs has a 27.5, 12th in the league. So you got to give it to my man, Josh Jacobs, man. Not all touches are created equal. And I really like how John Gruden has that old mentality of the ball is going to be run down your throat and, essentially the passing games through the tight end and Darren Waller. So give me Josh Jacobs, even though I've got Miles Sanders higher. And moving forward, that will be our first round. We will see who wins it in the comments and throughout the show. Next, we've got the rookie sensations of Trey Sermon and Michael Carter of the Jets. Michael Carter has myself and Tom back at it against Billy and Ryan on Trey Sermon. This time, Tom, you and I started. I'll go ahead and go first on Michael Carter. Michael Carter, in my personal rankings, I've got him at 37, Trey Sermon at 38. So I'm probably flip-flopped on that with you guys. And like I said earlier with the ADP, Michael Carter at 89.2 and Trey Sermon at 73.4. So I've got actually Michael Carter scoring more points and a better value than Trey Sermon. Right now, I forgot who announced it, but I got the little Fantasy Life notification. It says Michael Carter should be the starting running back in no time, quote unquote. So hopefully we see that. We knew it was going to happen. They drafted him in the 4th round to be the number 1 guy. So let's go, Michael Carter. The running back room's not that good. So Michael Carter doesn't have to beat too many people.
Yeah, I saw that same alert for Michael Carter, which I think is a big deal. And like you said, it's not like he had a ton of competition. I think the best competition he had was Tevin Coleman, which he's been a good number 2 back in a couple places, but definitely not a starting number 1 guy that you want to play 3 downs. Looking at Michael Carter in college, keep in mind these numbers last year: 1,200 rushing yards, 9 rushing touchdowns, 25 receptions, 267 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns, right? That's splitting the backfield with Williams, who ended up in Denver. So if you're put into a situation where you're the number 1 back, clear cut, those numbers are insane to come into the league with. He obviously has talent to do that in a split backfield. So I could see this being a guy that pushes that 1,000 rushing yards, 8 to 10 rushing touchdowns in his rookie season, especially with that 17-game season. And in a PPR format, that receiving ability is huge compared to Sermon. You can see about half the receptions and about a third of the receiving yards with no receiving touchdowns for Sermon. And that's with Ohio State's high-powered offense, by the way. He really still couldn't catch the ball. So I think that's a big up for Carter, and obviously a steal for the Jets there in the 4th round. By the way, he's going to go off with Zach Wilson.
Go ahead, Ryan.
All right, I will lead it off. Sorry. Here's the thing. Trey Sermon is likely going to be outscoring Michael Carter at the season's end. So as much as I like Michael Carter, I see no way Raheem Mostert or Jeff Wilson keep Trey Sermon off the field for too long. So there is actually an argument that Carter might be the higher fantasy scorer overall because of his catching ability. But come fantasy playoffs, when you're trying to win those games and you can put Trey Sermon into that roster when he's got the lion's share of the touches from a team that loves to run the ball with Kyle Shanahan, who Billy has gone over repeatedly about what he does with running backs. Sermon is the most talented guy. I don't think that Mostert can hold him off for long. He's aging. He seemed to age relatively quickly last year. So for me, Trey Sermon with that upside in that offense where they can run like they do all the time, yeah, I'm going to take Trey Sermon 10 out of 10. I know I'm a little higher on Sermon than most, but I think Billy's right there with me. I think this is his job by week 4 to 6 at the latest, and I don't think he ever receives less than 50% of the rushing attempts after that. Combine that with the fact that Trey Lance should be getting that ball hopefully sooner rather than later. Again, a running quarterback that can keep defenses paying attention to him. They have receiving weapons out the wazoo in reality. So to me, in this offense, that's the biggest thing. I do like Zach Wilson. I know they're going to be playing from behind, and I know Carter's going to have more catches, but I think Sermon's going to really put a distance between him and Carter in the end of the season when he's going to be getting 100-plus yard games, 1+ touchdowns every game with 1 or 2 catches thrown in there. He doesn't have the same PPR upside as Carter does, but I think that the volume on the other way with the rushing attempts late in the season could we not see San Francisco right back in the playoff hunt next year if Trey Lance is doing something good? And they're going to have Sermon running full steam ahead at that point. So I'm really in on Sermon, mostly as a guy for halfway through the season when he takes that job over. But I want to give props to Carter. He's a good back, and I do have exposure, but not as much as I do Sermon.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And my initial thought here is we're talking redraft 2021. You're picking your team. Michael Carter, much closer gap dynasty-wise for me when you talk about these two backs than redraft just this upcoming season. But I am huge high on Trey Sermon. San Francisco went from second in rushing in 2019 to 15th in 2020, and they spent a third-round draft pick on Trey Sermon, who's a good-sized back who hasn't had a huge workload in college, only 455 collegiate carries and only 170 over the last 2 years. So he has not been run into the ground like some of these guys coming out. Shanahan's had productive speed running backs with Steve Slayton, Raheem Mostert. He's had productive one-cut power-type backs with Freddie Morris, Carlos Hyde, Ryan Terrain, who is kind of a nobody guy as well. So Sermon is a mix of talents that may be better suited for the NFL in this zone blocking scheme than he was in college playing in the spread at Oklahoma and Ohio State. And Shanahan will use one running back if the player is deserving of that role. We saw him do it with Alfred Morris and win the rushing title as a rookie. So same 40 time as Devontae Freeman, who is crazy good under Shanahan. Choosing Sermon here isn't a knock on Michael Carter, like Ryan said, by any means. San Francisco is just a much better situation for a young player than the Jets are. And Sermon, to me, is a better running back in a better situation and has a little bit of size on his side as well. So although the Jet staff is made up of several Kyle Shanahan disciples, so Carter is in an attractive system as well, I'm just not sure how the Jets shake out yet. So leaning Sermon with the quality team around him for right now, redraft 2021.
I don't know about that. PJ Kennedy saying Sermon is the 2021 Keyshawn Vaughn. Not so sure. Like, Fournette is pretty talented, and Ronald Jones had a resurgent year. I'm not seeing that from Mostert and Wilson whenever they have Sermon coming out there. Like, Sermon is going to get the touches, and he's going to likely sooner rather than later just take them. That would be my bet for, like, I'm not thinking rookie of the year, but I'm thinking rookie of the second half of the year.
Sure.
That's fair. Very fair.
So, see, I had Sermon ranked in my top 7. What did you guys – top 7 on running backs? I for certain had Sermon top 7.
I think it was like my 4.
Yeah. Right, probably right around that 4-5 mark.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think so. But the guy who is number 1, Najee versus David Montgomery, product of Iowa. We are going to start. Tom, you start with Najee.
I mean, Najee Harris, what is there to say that hasn't been said already, whether it's in college or coming into the NFL here, right? This is a guy that we've seen Big Ben talking up since he got into Pittsburgh. I mean, these stats are incredible. Obviously, it's Alabama. Obviously, it's a high-powered offense. But keep in mind, that means there's a lot of malice to feed there. With that being said, 1,400 rush yards, 26 rushing touchdowns, and then add to that the ability to catch 43 receptions and 400 plus receiving yards. Those are incredible numbers anywhere you go, let alone a place that has so many other high talent individuals at receiver, tight end, etc. So I think this is a guy that we're going to see have 250 to 300 touches. And don't get me wrong, David Montgomery, running back number 4 last year, I think that he's great, but you didn't have Tariq Cohen last year. I think that we see Montgomery more around that running back 10 to 12 range, somewhere right in that range. Could get into the top 10, but not by as much. I think Najee, just on volume alone, could easily be a top 10 back this year.
Right. Although, Billy, I think you're on Monty and I'm on Najee on this one.
Oh, yeah, you're right. My bad. Like I said, last comment here.
Yeah.
Absolutely hilarious. All right, Ryan, why is Najee your go-to guy over David Montgomery for redraft 2021?
This one was probably the toughest one for me out of all these. When I'm looking at my rankings right now, I have them at 13 and 14. So, and in PPR format, I have Najee outscoring Montgomery by 5.5 points. And in standard, I have Montgomery actually outperforming him. But what's going to happen here and what I did, I think Montgomery gets more touches, Harris gets more touchdowns, and Harris gets more catches. And that's going to be the thing that pushes Najee over for me is, man, I'm loving Montgomery again. He's my he's my RB 13 and Najee's my RB 12. But the thing is, like, Najee's touchdown floor is so much higher with just his skill set is fantastic for scoring the ball. He's huge. He's fast. He is absolutely going to be up there trying to lead the league in rushing touchdowns every year. I don't think maybe Montgomery outrushes him and out yardages him, but the touchdown differential and the PPR differential is going to be too much for Montgomery to overcome. I do have concerns about the Pittsburgh O-line, but not enough from a guy like Najee Harris, who really doesn't – again, the end zone stuff is really going to give him a safe floor this year.
So I'll go first, Billy, and then you can close it out for David Montgomery. For me, again, I'm going with the value on this 2021. If you're looking at these running backs, I mean, Najee is going at 17.6 and Monty's 20 spots behind him at 38. I mean, absolutely ridiculous where the value is on this guy. I mean, everyone forgets the guaranteed volume that he gets. I mean, he's 1,000-yard back. Those are very far and few between. Najee could hit that, but David Montgomery is a little bit more safer play. And at that value, I can't pass it up. He has a 65.5% snap share, 61 evaded tackles, 11th in the league, a 20.3% juke rating, and he's created 449 yards for himself. From scrimmage per game, he gets 17.8 touches and 81.2 yards per game. That's lights out, lock and load your running back 2 with running back upside. Give me David Montgomery over the question marks in Pittsburgh with that offensive line. Rookie year, right? I mean, he is a great back, and in Dynasty, it's not a question at all for me. But for redraft 2021, give me Monty over Najee.
What, you can't take 300 touches? That doesn't do it?
Not 20 spots higher, though.
I'll agree. I think the value for Monty is better. I'm looking at this one more like if I'm on the clock. But the value on Monty is better. I do have a lot of Monty.
Yeah, this situation for me is kind of, it's an injection of the dynasty thought process where, the rookies in your mind, you got to have those guys. And I feel like in redraft, the rookies aren't always as productive. So for me, it's just kind of going with that veteran that I've seen the progression with. RB4 last year, as we talked about in PPR, that's pretty solid. That's hard to do, and guys don't accidentally become RB4. More carries, yards, touchdowns, targets, and his yards per carry rose as well last year. 5th in the NFL in receptions by the running back position. And their quarterback situation is an upgrade, whether it's Andy Dalton or Justin Fields, in my opinion. So Allen Robinson and Monty are the only big-time guys on this Bears offense, and I don't see his workload regressing in obviously carries or the passing game. I'm not a believer in Tariq Cohen. I don't really see him imposing too much because Montgomery was drafted because they wanted a guy that could do both jobs. They already had Jordan Howard running the ball well. They wanted a guy that could do both and really kind of booted a really productive back in Jordan Howard out to draft this kid out of Iowa State. So don't forget, they're very high on him. And I think Montgomery's he just had a slow start to his NFL career. As his game isn't necessarily speed or power. It's vision and making guys miss. And those are part of the game that take a little time to develop with O-line concerns, things like that. So, and I feel like he did that. I love me some Najee. This is very, very close for me. But redraft 2021, I'll ride the experienced guy for now.
I will say I see PJ Kennedy down here in the comments saying that Monty's a trap this year. I don't know if trap is quite the word. I think that might be a little aggressive. We know he's a very productive running back, right? We've seen that now. But I do think that the 54 receptions last year for 400 yards could go down with Cohen coming back, because Cohen is that pass catching back. He's that 5'6" Darren Sproles, Danny Woodhead type of guy that you're going to run out of the backfield in a pass catching role, which does hurt him a bit in a PPR format. In a standard format, I'm not as worried about it. But PPR, I am going to hedge my bets a bit with Montgomery, which, like I said, that's where I'm leaning towards Najee here.
I might agree that it's a trap if he was going like in that late first round, early second round, guys, but he's not. He's going third, fourth round for you. At that kind of value, this is absolutely not a trap. I feel like his floor is actually easy right in that range. I think worst case scenario, you're getting a fourth round guy. And I think the upside's there for him to be a consistent guy in that 8 to 12, the RB 8 to 12 range. I think is an easy, comfortable spot for Monty to come in, even if this offense sputters a bit.
Low end RB1, I think, all day.
I agree.
Yeah, or very high RB2. Like I have him at 13.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, PJ Kennedy. I get it, but the volume is impossible for me to ignore. That's just incredible volume.
Touches. It's 300 touches.
Yep, 301. Like, not many guys get it. And when you get that kind of volume, means a lot to me, to all of us, I know. Like, but I see Najee, again, on my other side, I see Najee approaching that volume as well. I mean, perhaps not in the same level, but I could see it.
Here, and then also think about this. Who are they playing against? Their divisional rivals. I mean, right now, Green Bay's essentially in shambles. You got Detroit, Detroit is Detroit,
always
right?
In shambles.
Right. And in Pittsburgh's defense or division, they've got some contenders, right? So
Cleveland, Baltimore, even the Bengals are improving.
At that, what did I say his ADP was? 17.6. Yeah. I mean, at that range, I just think that, and even in one QB leagues, I'm a George Kittle. Shoot.
And here's the deal. That 17.6, he's probably being drafted over Aaron Jones. Now, I love me some Najee, but the hype is got him very inflated right now early in fantasy draft season.
I told you, remember the rookie hype. It's crazy right now.
Absolutely.
So we'll go forward, though. Let's look at these comments, but we'll go forward and AK-47 versus Nick Chubb. Billy all by himself on the AK-47 train. Billy, we'll let you finish up since you're by yourself. Give you the last knockout punch if you would.
Sure.
Ryan, you go, then Tom, and then I'll close out Nick.
Nicholas Jamal Chubb. This guy's a freaking beast. I mean, he has never averaged below 5 yards per carry. He has, other than his rookie year, he had 996. He's never had less than 1,000 yards in the other 2 years after that. He's had 8, and 12 rushing touchdowns, and he has shown capable pass catching wise. But Hunt is really more the guy for that. What we're looking at here is like a 2019 298 carries. Like, again, not touches, carries. There are very, very few running backs that can do that. And then to do that much volume with a 5 yards per carry average, that's preposterous. Like, this guy is in a next level tier of talent that very few running backs can be in. I realize that we're looking at Kamara, was a fantasy god last year. I get it. But Nick Chubb, fully healthy, fully realized, is a guy that I cannot pass up. And if anything were to happen to Kareem Hunt, like if he were to get hurt in any capacity and Chubb then absorbed a lot of that pass catching stuff, this is the RB1 potential guy that you could get. He's not going top 3 running backs usually. Whereas Kamara, actually, I don't know what their current ADP is, but I would suspect that Kamara's is higher at the moment because
Kamara is at 5.1 and Chubb is at 11.5. The disrespect for Chubb.
Woo! I love 11.5 for Chubb. Holy cow. If you can get him at the end of round 1, that is where I like to get him. Because, again, this guy's talent is undeniable. He is going to get over 5 yards per carry. He's going to be double-digit touchdowns, 1,000-plus yards. He will be integrated in some small ways in the passing game, so you can get a little bonus from that. But, again, Hunt, that's what kills his ceiling is Hunt takes that. But for me, I'm enamored with this guy's talent. He is so powerful and fast. This offense should be doing pretty well. I think we all kind of saw a little bit more from Baker we wanted to see last year after his sophomore slump. So For me, give me Chubb. I'm concerned about no Drew Brees. That's the biggest thing for me is no Drew Brees. How's that going to affect Kamara? How's that going to affect that entire offense? Plus, they have to play Tampa Bay, like we've been saying earlier. Now, Chubb gets Baltimore and Pittsburgh, but that hasn't been a problem for him, any of his matchups with Baltimore or Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I would say Paul brought this up in the comments there. Dynasty, it's a lot closer. This year, give me Chubb. So Chubb last year only played in 12 games, and he was the running back 11. Those are monstrous numbers, okay? Add in one more, and if he's able to stay healthy for the entirety of the year, like you said, Ryan, if Hunt misses any time, that's massive for him. 12 touchdowns on the season is huge. And he's not terrible at catching the ball. It's definitely not his forte. He's not going to be out there doing it if Hunt's healthy, but he can if he is called on. So I think that, looking at Chubb's upside, if he plays a full season, it's 1,500 yards, with a 17-game season and 15, 16 touchdowns pretty handily. Kamara, on the other hand, like we said, you don't know what the quarterback situation is there. And I think all of us have talked about how that's a big question mark for us. And I think a lot of us are hedging our bets on most of the Saints guys not knowing who it's going to be. And I think that if it is Taysom or if it is Jameis, either one of them is a lot more mobile than Drew Brees. So you could see some of those touchdowns get vultured. 16 rushing touchdowns probably won't happen with either of those quarterbacks in. You probably won't see 83 receptions for 700 yards from it. It's still going to be high. Don't get me wrong. It's probably well into the 60s or 70s, but I just don't think that the production remains the same. Even though they are saying they are going to lean on their running backs down there, I still just think Kamara is going way too high for the value when Chubb is he is one of my favorite things, efficient.
Very efficient for sure, Tom. AK-47 scored, 5? How many touchdowns on Christmas?
Yeah, it was preposterous. 6?
Absolutely crazy. 6, something like that.
Yeah. Take that game out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we go to Nick Chubb, right? How many games did he play last season? 11? He was still first in yards created at 648. That's absolutely crazy. 17.4 touches per game. The workload from Stefanski's there, and he's gonna get the full workload this year. Last year, y'all know the line I drew in the sand, Kamara and Hunt. I'm sorry, that's the same guy, isn't it? Chubb and Hunt. This season, not so much. Nick Chubb he's gonna be a running back 1 this season, and that's why I'm on Nick Chubb, man. The guy's phenomenal. So, Billy, why are you taking the lone stand with AK-47?
So Kamara has been one thing that's incredibly important, and that's reliable. He's only missed 4 games in 4 years. Chubb's had some injury concerns, so that's always a bit of a scare for me. He had the knee injury coming out of college as well. So that's one small check mark. Not that I plan on injuries or anything, but it is something to consider when you're splitting hairs. These are both incredible guys. So top 5 in 3 of his 4 seasons. The off year in 2019, he was RB9, averaged 4.6 yards per carry. Had his standard 81 receptions, and he just didn't hit the end zone as much as we're accustomed to, and his receiving yards was down a significant amount, a couple hundred yards from that 700-yard mark Tom talked about. He's just over 500. And that was the unhealthy down year Alvin Kamara. So I just love his floor. I think whoever's under center will be targeting Kamara plenty. He averages right at 100 targets per year. Peyton isn't going to let that just disappear. Brees missed 4 games last year, and Alvin Kamara had his career high in targets. So he also shares a backfield with Latavius Murray. Chubb shares with Kareem Hunt. Hunt gets a strong workload where Murray's kind of just that complement package guy. Both of these guys are incredible running backs, true elite talents. I really don't think you can go wrong with Chubb. But these days of PPR, Kamara is a prototype PPR running back, and he stays on the field.
I will say, I think with either of these guys, it's almost a coin flip, right? I think any of us would take either of them. I don't think anybody that's on the Chubb side would be upset with getting Kamara. I don't think Billy would be upset with getting Chubb. You have an RB1 either way. I think it's going to come down to what's your preference, which team do you like better, which offense do you like better, and which player style do you like better. Obviously, do you want to rely on the receptions? Not that Kamara is solely relying on receptions. I mean, his rushing stats show that. But do you really want that to be the bulk of your points, or do you want to have a guy that you expect to be in there at the goal line getting touchdown after touchdown all season long that averages a touchdown a game last year?
Well, and one thing, if you want Jameis Winston to not throw interceptions, tell him to check it down to Alvin Kamara.
Hey, that surgery?
Yeah, so he can see Alvin Kamara right there.
He'll see which color the jerseys are. That LASIK also fixed the color blindness.
Talking about Jameis Winston and his crab legs anymore, we're going to talk about this guy, my guy over here, Zeke Elliott versus Antonio Gibson. I'm going to be selfish. I'm going to start real quick on Zeke Elliott. Billy, you go second. Ryan, Tom, finish it off for us. So, guys, Zeke Elliott, my number 3 running back, a big 3 guy for me. You know how I feel about bell cow backs. His ADP right now is at 7.9. Gibson's 19.1. So, yeah, the value's probably with Antonio Gibson with the upside there. But you got to give me the guy who is day in, day out going to get touches for you. We all know how bad he was last season. Fantasy expected points negative, almost 80 points in his career. He's always had a positive, close to 29% expected point ratio. So super bad year last year, but still with last year's numbers, he was still averaging 19.6 points per game, 0.832 per touch with 23.52 touches per game. I mean, that's a solid workload where, I mean, Gibson could only dream of a workload like this. So give me Zeke all day, every day with the 80.6% snap share. My running back 3. I'm ride or dying with Zeke. And I mean, the disrespect for Zeke is just going to stop soon.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Chris. This is a guy who had 50 receptions, 71 targets last year. And look at what he did the first 4 games of the year with Dak Prescott on the field. He was absolutely going off out the gate. And if you look at his snap share down the back stretch of the season, he wasn't playing really a full workload. They were trying to keep this guy healthy while they got Dak back and kind of thrown in the towel with the quarterback situation a mess. Why run Zeke out there 80% of the plays? That's just not smart. So I think that played into it. And this down, washed up Zeke was still RB9. Didn't I just talk about Kamara doing that? RB9 the year before in that down, unhealthy year. Zeke's 25 years old. He's still the catalyst of this offense. He's what makes this whole thing go. If you're not drafting Zeke, you're going to wish you had very soon after 2021 kicks off.
Yeah,
on mute for Pinto.
I do agree that Zeke is getting disrespected. And I'm actually these 2 guys are within 10 points of each other in my projections. And I actually have Zeke a little higher, but for me, it comes down to, that value on Gibson, who I'm very high on. There is no running back that's going to be giving him red zone competition. I do like McKissick out of the backfield, but there's no way he sees the same target level with Gibson seeing what he saw. Gibson played receiver. Like, this is a part of his game that's going to be unlocked, especially with an upgrade at QB. Fitzmagic, God, I love Fitzmagic. To me, it's a situation thing. The other side, Zeke has all those receivers and so much talent around him that I fear that this offense is going to be more pass happy with Dak going kind of crazy. And that's just going to cut the TD production enough for Zeke to make me think that the value on Gibson is a superior pickup. I think similarly to Kamara and Chubb, I'm liking Zeke. I'm getting Zeke. The disrespect is kind of ridiculous for me as well. That being said, Antonio Gibson is an absolute beast. He's almost the same. He's a couple inches taller and a couple pounds lighter than Zeke. That's pretty incredible. The size of this guy, we've talked about this a few times. I think people really underestimate how big this man is. Like, he's a power back with that kind of speed, with that kind of receiving chops. The potential is there for Washington to be much better. Washington also has that defense that can keep games low scoring, and then Washington can pound the ball down people's throats the way the Cowboys used to do when they had an offensive line. That's my other concern, is the offensive line in Dallas is a concern now, whereas it wasn't before. And I think in Washington, they're going to be doing a lot better. And they're going to have the ball maybe with the lead a little bit more than Dallas is, with that high aerial attack that they're going to be. Dak's going to go crazy. Those receivers are going to go crazy. Gibson might get to eat more.
You think there's anybody that cares to have bragging rights the best running back in the NFC East, because it's a pretty loaded division at the running back position. And
yes, it is.
Saquon at the top of that thing.
I was gonna say, we all know who number one is.
Yeah, we like some Saquon
actually.
Yeah. But this is a very talented division for running backs, like incredibly. Because I mean, we just talked about Sanders a second ago. These are 4 studs. You may make the argument this is the best starting running back division in football.
Funny enough, kind of off topic here, but talk about the NFC East running backs. Saying how good Sanders is, the Eagles from PFF, they ranked running back groups. So the entirety of that running back group. Where do you think the Eagles fell, guys, out of the 32 teams in the league?
Probably relatively high.
Probably last year. I don't know, with that bad line. It's hard.
Going into this year. This year.
Oh, I bet it's pretty good. I bet it's pretty good. I'm wondering how they rank Gainwell.
Mute, so I don't know what he said.
Yes, number 2.
3?
That's 3. I'm going to go with 18.
You said 18?
I bet top 10.
Billy, top 10, Billy?
I'll say like number 6.
27th.
Oh,
what? I think there's some talent in that backfield, man.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, again, I'm a Gainwell fan. I really am a Gainwell fan, so that's going to influence me significantly.
It was an interesting thing I saw. I try not to get too hurt about that. They suck.
I strongly disagree with it.
27, PJ.
Hey, he would have won Price is Right if it was all of us.
He would have won.
Only 4 of us. I'm going to the Showcase Showdown. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. But anyway, I'll keep it short here on Gibson and Zeke. Zeke, you guys already know I don't like that offensive line. They're 2 or 3 years behind what the Eagles were. The Eagles 2 or 3 years ago had that great offensive line that just has been regressing ever since. And Zeke, I think it was last week I brought it up. His yards per carry has gone down every single year. Other than 17 was a little bit of an anomaly. It kind of dropped a lot and then bumped back up. But his trend throughout his career has gone down from about 5.1 yards per carry down to 4 last year. Not good. So on the other side, though, Gibson, the positives. This is a guy that we've already heard them talking about how this is a guy that's going to take a big step up going into 2021. He's going to be a huge role for this offense. I mean, last season with shoddy quarterback play, not much of an O-line, a guy that did 4.7 yards per carry, and he had 36 receptions on 44 targets. I mean, I think that we're going to see a guy that has 60 targets or so in the passing game, and if he continues with the efficiency on the ground around that high 4s, low 5s yards per attempt, he had 170 carries last year. I could see it around that 200 mark. I mean, you're looking at close to 1,000 rushing yards. I think this is a guy that's easily going to bump towards the 8 to 10 range. He's a solidified RB1 at that point based on that receiving ability.
Real quick, who you taking? ADP right there for a year on the clock. You got Najee, you got Antonio Gibson. Who you taking?
Right now,
Gibson.
today,
Go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say right now today, that's the only clarification. I'm taking Gibson.
Me too. I got Gibson outscoring him by 17.2 PPR points. It's just, man, Najee has a similar pass thing, but again, I'm more comfortable with the scenario. There's a lot of just like what I said with Zeke. There's a lot of receiving weapons there for Pittsburgh. Especially early in the year, Pittsburgh may be throwing while Ben's arm is still alive. Whereas with Gibson, you got Fitzmagic. I'm imagining Fitzmagic wants to win, and the way they're going to be able to do that is to control the game with that defense and be able to run the ball so the defense isn't on the field as much and they can wreak absolute havoc. You don't have the same aerial attack in Washington, even though I think we all love F1. I think there is a solid offense here, but I think Gibson – it's Gibson and McLaurin are the two talents here. And then when you move to Pittsburgh, it's Najee, it's Juju, it's Deontay, it's Claypool. Like there's a lot more to work with. That's why I would lean Gibson at this moment. I'm also, again, I'm a Gibson truther.
Did you forget about Curtis Samuel?
No, I didn't. I just didn't name him on purpose.
Fair enough.
One more thing about Zeke, guys. You guys kind of cited, offensive line concerns. I think the plethora of receiving options kind of makes up, or it makes a different advantage when there's not so many guys in the box. That offensive line gonna get a little bit of help there as far as
Billy. I told you earlier we get to talk about this stuff during the season when we're laughing at everybody.
Yeah,
Stop giving them reasons to like Zeke.
I'm muting myself.
See, Chris, he does it on purpose.
I try not to, actually.
Well,
if y'all have listened to us last season, you knew that we picked some of us picked Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl, and we also picked Kareem Hunt to outscore Nick Chubb. This is a guy that my cohorts over here were very high on, actually helped me pick him up in a couple of leagues, is James Robinson against his running back mate now, picked in the first round, Travis Etienne out of Clemson. Tom, you're by yourself on Etienne, and I love it. So we'll start over here. Let's go with Ryan. Have you started one?
Yes, I have. I just wanted to make one quick comment before we moved on to this one. Is I saw Kick So Fly, Gibson redraft Najee Dynasty. You know that Gibson is younger than Najee? Like, that's an interesting fact as well. They're pretty close to the same age, but Gibson is actually like a couple months younger than Najee.
Put that in your notes.
That's interesting, right? Like, you wouldn't think that, but Najee's a bit old coming out, whereas Gibson was coming out as early as he could. Sorry. Now on to
you're good.
Draft pick that pissed me off.
That's a fantastic point.
Yeah, it's strange, right? Like, you don't, in your head, you don't see it that way because this is a second-year guy and a rookie.
More experienced. That checks the major boxes.
Yeah, for me too. And yeah, I agree, man. Plus, I feel more confident in Washington's O-line moving forward than I do Pittsburgh's right now. Plus the Big Ben situation. This has got to be the last year, right? And that's Dwayne Haskins coming out. So I think that I would lean Gibson, knowing that Fitzmagic won't be here for much longer, but I do believe Washington is going to take care of something at quarterback between now and the draft next year, I assume.
And one last point about Washington, I kind of like what they have going on out there, building this football team with Ron Rivera. Kind of tend to overlook them with the excitement of the other three teams in the division, but quietly under the radar, the Redskins might have the best defense in the division, and with Antonio Gibson, they can be dangerous.
The football.
Agreed. Yeah, whatever. I call them the WTFs.
Yep.
Yeah. Now we can go to where we were supposed to be, and the worst draft pick in the NFL draft in 2020. So,
Ryan, I don't want to get you too hopped up on this. We know how you can get. Let's talk about your guy, James Robinson, over here.
J-Rob.
Over here. Don't even look at that side of the screen.
What did he need to do more? Like, I don't understand. Double-digit touchdowns, nearly 1,500 total yards. He was a monster last year with a team that gave him almost nothing to work with. It was really sad watching that one good player. It also hurt me to watch Chark as well. With once Minshew got out, it was just garbage. This is not going to be a garbage team this year. Etienne is quite talented. I'm pretty excited about him as well, but not the same way that Robinson proved to me. That guy is for real. He did it already a year in this league. Etienne, as good. I mean, I remember Trent Richardson. I remember a lot of these guys that, whoa, we were hyped up about them coming in. And then just for some reason, on occasion, it just doesn't click. I don't think Etienne's going to do that, but I'm 100% certain Robinson has already done it. Like, there's such a beautiful feeling for me knowing this guy can make it in the NFL, especially with the really, really subpar talent. He had a 4 or 5 yards per carry average. He was an absolute beast. The only weakness that people complained about was his lack of top end speed, and that did not seem to affect him too bad last year. Again, he wasn't breaking off long, huge touchdown runs. He's not a Kamara, Tyreek type of an explosive player, but he's shifty. He's powerful. He'll be in on goal line carries. To me, he's the more powerful back, the more one cut and go, whereas Etienne has more electricity. The other thing to consider, I know Etienne will eat into this, but 60 targets and 49 catches for Robinson. He can do it all. This guy was the strength of this team. I hate this draft pick more than any other draft pick, but to me, I'm still leaning. I'm hearing that Etienne, we all are hearing that Etienne's taking a lot of snaps in the slot. If Robinson can get over 200 carries, he's going to be a machine next year with a much upgraded offense, a passing game they're going to have to respect, and Etienne's going to get his. But I'm honestly not certain that Etienne is the superior talent to Robinson when it comes to fantasy production, including red zone touches and a pass catching ability that is rivaled with Etienne, which is such a strength apparently for him. Robinson has that same strength. So for me, he knows the offense a little bit better. The offensive personnel a little bit better. Etienne gets Lawrence, and that's a big thing. That's a big deal. There's going to be some familiarity. That being said, I think the talent is undeniable, and Robinson is going to end up outscoring Etienne this year.
Yeah, James Robinson is just way too talented to not play. 240 carries last year. He's really the only guy getting any carries in that backfield. I mean, Gardner Minshew was the second leading rusher on this team. Etienne has pass blocking issues, and that will limit him being in the backfield on third down, especially with the guy like James Robinson, who had 60 targets last year, 49 receptions. I mean, Etienne and this wide receiver thing might be a thing because James Robinson is probably working harder than anyone right now to prove he's not just another Jag, literally and figuratively. The Jags will run the ball more with Urban Meyer and Robinson only logging that 240 last year. There's a significant workload for Etienne as well as a running back. And I'm taking J-Rob on the volume play. I think he gets a similar workload that he did last year in a better situation, more talent around him. The quarterback situation, you assume is an upgrade. But I just like J-Rob. He's just the real deal to me.
I mean, he came out of nowhere, right? We like these undrafted rookie stories and how hard they work to get into these locker rooms and fight during camps. And then he gets that, starting job and he utilizes it. I mean, 5th in the league at evaded tackles per game, 5.6, and 6th in the league at 423 for created yards. That's absolutely phenomenal with what they were working with in Jacksonville, right? So, man, for me, you got the dynasty right there with Trevor Lawrence, and you bring his buddy who it's a big building block for him. But like Billy mentioned, man, I mean, the pass blocking right there, he's not going to be back there on third down. He's not going to be there on second down, really, if you're throwing the ball. It's going to be James Robinson. This is a copycat league, and, you kind of got to, I guess, compare Etienne to Alvin Kamara in his rookie year. And was he utilized? Yes, but they still pounded the rock in New Orleans. So I think that Etienne, yes, does build, but this is redraft, right? This is our bread and butter. I'm going with the surefire guy in James Robinson that you're getting 30 picks later. Etienne going at 47.1 and James Robinson at 77.8. I mean, I've got them ranked at 30 and 31, Etienne higher, but at a 30, I mean, that's like what, 3 rounds almost 3 rounds. That's phenomenal for me. So, Tom, as you're swinging by yourself, I see you got the mic up real hot. I'm going to go on mute. Hopefully I don't come back on mute. So,
well, I just want to take y'all on a quick history lesson. Y'all remember the 2019 draft class? I'm sure you do. It was a good class, right? Look at those quarterbacks. Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, Dwayne Haskins, Drew Lock, the man, the myth, the legend, Trace McSorley, Will Greer, Jarrett Stidham, Easton Stick, Clayton Thorson. There's one man that we're leaving out, though. He's down in Jacksonville.
Minshew.
He has the best hair on the team. Even Trevor Lawrence himself has said he has the best hair on the team. Gardner Minshew. Now, from that draft class, do you know who leads that quarterback class in yards per game? Gardner at 240.4 yards per game?
Minshew Mania.
Minshew Mania. Beat Mudflap himself.
Do you know who leads that quarterback class in touchdowns per game at 1.6 touchdowns per game?
The man, the myth, the mustache. It's got to be.
You know it. Do you know who leads that quarterback class in the fewest interceptions per game at 0.5 interceptions per game?
I got a good guess. It's Minshew.
Oh, you know who it is. It is Gardner Minshew II. There is no first. Hashtag start Minshew 2021. The man needs a job. But the point of it is that team wasn't that terrible. You have the best quarterback from the 2019 draft class. I've just shown that, have I not? James Robinson is a very good. Yeah, right. He didn't, and that's because they wanted to lose out because they didn't think he was good enough. Even though he's better than Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, Dwayne Haskins, and everybody else that was in that draft class. I think Chris just lost it up there. But so here's my thing, right? ETN gonna play in the slot a bit. We've already seen that. Kick so fly there. Paul brought up the fact that running back / wide receiver opportunity. I think this is somebody that we could see a couple games in gets enough reps at wide receiver that he could get wide receiver eligibility. Personally, I'm big on Robert Tanyan, tight end 3, tight end 4, depending on what type of league you're in last year. He has wide receiver eligibility. Hey guys, pro tip, in Sleeper, he pops up under wide receiver and he's way down there. Way down there. I got him in, I think, the 8th or 9th round, something like that. Big steal. But that flexibility, to me at least in fantasy, is big. Being able to line him up at running back, at wide receiver, however I want, is massive. So that in itself is going to be big. I think that the receiving ability for ETN is going to eat into James Robinson's receptions. That 49 won't hold, right? They have receivers. They have LaVisca. They have Shark. They have Marvin Jones. Yeah, Marvin Jones, who they just brought in. They have guys that can catch the ball. Chris, I know your guy, Colin Johnson, right?
Junior.
6'6", something like that. Yeah. So they have guys that can catch the ball. And I think that that's going to hurt James Robinson's PPR value. And then you've also already heard Tanyan, 7.11. Thank you, Paul. So, yeah, Robert Tanyan, 7th round, and he was the number 3 tight end last year. Pro tip, guys.
The Rodgers situation is scary, though.
It is.
To be fair, Rodgers scares me right now.
They did shift around some money today, I saw. So it's looking like Rodgers will stay. But, Tom, that is phenomenal. I mean, when you get these guys that can do these things and essentially Konami code you outside. I mean, it's a game, right? And we're all looking for these advantages in your league. That's an advantage in a 3 wide receiver league, a tight end premium. I mean, that's a steal because he could be the tight end 4, 3. You know, I mean, he's George Kittle Jr. They train together, they live together, they're like brothers. They wear the same number. When Tanyan had that huge game, George Kittle's on Twitter saying, "Good job, little bro." Like, I mean, the dudes are legit. And I mean, we all know that how Ryan and I thought that Jace was going to be the guy, but Robert Tanyan.
Yeah.
Hey, one random thought on ETN in this wide receiver situation.
What is it, Billy?
Kind of a similar athlete to like a Paris Campbell. Very intricate part in that Urban Meyer system. I see that ETN being a wide receiver, being a legitimate role that he'll play, as well as that 1B running back.
You know, it's funny that you bring him up because
I mean, I don't know though. Like, I get it, but like, man, I can't. Not in the redraft for me. I'm just.
So you know who else did that though?
I'm with
Percy
that.
Harvin. Percy Harvin. Similar situation for Urban Meyer.
Another similar guy.
He likes this guy, this type of player. And the other thing I did want to bring up is
utility flanker position.
It's what we thought LaVisca would be last year, but now you have a coach that can actually utilize it because he's not a fucking idiot.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
benches the best quarterback from his draft class.
Moron.
To lose his own job, by the way.
Yeah.
Let me bench this kid and lose my job. Yeah, great. Really quick.
Myself back on mute real quick. Jeez, y'all made me lose that private chat.
Last point, right? They asked Trevor Lawrence if they will see a scenario, assuming that he makes the team. I know a lot of people have feelings about this. I don't want to get into all that. But would they see formations of Trevor Lawrence, Gardner Minshew, and Tim Tebow all on the field at the same time? He said, I hope so. He said, we're still in the install phase. We're still learning everything. But you know what? If you see the 3 of them on the field, I'm going to guess it's somewhat like that Heisman formation that they ran up in Baltimore. You're going to see 3 across. Hey, you never know, right? I could see those 3 across the back.
Annexation of Puerto Rico.
Yes.
If those 3 guys are on the field, ETN's on the field, and you know who isn't? James Robinson.
I don't know, man.
ETN's over in the slot.
When you look at the talent, it's going to be J-Rod had a lot. J-Rob had a lot of catches, man. It's not like he can't do that too.
No, it's not. But I think that knowing that there's that connection between ETN and Trevor Lawrence and seeing how much they're running him out at wide receiver, ETN's going to be that guy that if you're going to move somebody from the backfield, he's going outside. I could still see, and it's somebody that we brought up, briefly was LaVisca. I could still see them pulling him into the backfield as well, which could steal a little bit from both of these guys. I think this is going to be an offense that's very creative, very weird to watch, but very fun at the same time.
I think ETN is probably legitimately their fourth best receiving option if you put him in the wide receiver room right now.
Easily.
Yeah, but I don't know if I want the wide receiver 4.
But it's also your running back 1/2.
Right, I understand.
I think he's on the field as a slot receiver while James Robinson's in the backfield. That's a decent amount, honestly.
But what expectation do we really have going up against Darius Leonard's Colts and Vrabel's Titans defense? I mean, the Texans are going to get shredded no matter what, but like those are two elite defenses.
These two guys are going to go for 1,000 yards just against the Texans in those two games alone.
So it's great DFS play, great best ball play, but not on my redraft team. Definitely this one might have been the hardest one for me because I like both of these guys so much for redraft. Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon helped me win one of my first championships back in the day, right? Javonte Williams, he's probably going to help you win some championships this year. These were two guys I think we were pretty close on. I'm not too sure, but it's 2-2. Ryan and Tom, Billy and myself. Billy, you started with Melvin Gordon. Why are you taking him?
So I as well have a soft spot for Melvin Gordon when he broke the NCAA rushing record against Nebraska. Being an Iowa fan, I love to mention that as much as possible. So that's when I really decided I liked Melvin Gordon. So thank you for that, still Melvin Gordon. But this I do think is going to be a pretty productive tandem. And I think it'll be both guys early on. Phillip Lindsay left enough meat on the bone, and for Melvin Gordon's opportunities to not really be affected. We did see him play some of his best football last year, second best yards per carry of his career, even though the world wants you to believe otherwise. It was an injury haven in Denver last season, so it's not the best situation for everything to be clicking on all cylinders. I will take Melvin Gordon edging out the rookie. Once again, experience playing for a future opportunity. The Broncos are paying him $8 million, and they're going to get their $8 million out of him. And he was a top 15 PPR running back in 2020 with only 32 receptions. So that leaves plenty of that work to be had by Javonte Williams. That is what we expect him to eat up. So I'll hold on one more year for nostalgia's sake on one Melvin Gordon III.
Melvin Gordon III, I'm taking him too, Billy. I mean, Melvin Gordon right now, we're all thinking that this offense is going to ascend this year with the return of their wide receivers, Drew Lock, the Glock, playing a little bit better. Tom, very high on Drew Lock. So if Drew Lock plays very well, Melvin Gordon with the experience will be out there blocking for him. Javonte, man, I mean, what did he pass block in college? Because Drew Lock's going to need protection. Melvin Gordon can do that. Melvin Gordon is going in around 91 on ADP, Javonte 63. So people are taking Javonte, but maybe the value is with Melvin Gordon. Tom mentioned we had them identically ranked, I think. Is that what you said, Tom, in our consensus rankings? So maybe this is one of the ones right here where you scoop the value, at least for me, because Melvin Gordon is producing 16 points per game for you. I mean, that's running back 2 with running. I mean, that's solid running back 2 performance for you in your flex, right? You got, I mean,
high end RB2.
RB2, there you go. So RB2 with possible RB1 upside if anything happens. He's probably getting the red zone carries too. I mean, remember him at the Chargers. I just remember him in that baby blue scooting in either with a dump off pass or just running it in. I think that's what Drew Lock needs to do. So I'll stop on Melvin Gordon. Like me and Billy, we could probably talk all day about Melvin Gordon. So guys, enlighten us on Javonte Williams, the rookie.
All right, Tom, I guess it's up to you, brother. I guess I'll go. Melvin Gordon has only played 16 games once. Melvin Gordon has only had over 1,000 yards once. 4 of his 6 years, he's averaged under 4 yards per carry. And even though last year he averaged 4.6, I looked like I was witnessing his decline. Now, like you guys said, RB14, you can't argue with those results. So I think my perception was a bit out of line with actual performance. That being said, I think it's just the beginning of the end for him, especially with the draft pick of Javonte Williams, who I know you guys were higher on than me, but I dig this situation for him. And I think, once again, part of what influences me here is that at the end of the year, Javonte will be getting more of the carries than Melvin Gordon will. So that's important to me as I plan for my playoff domination, to be able to know that I'm going to be having – my fear is that Melvin Gordon might get the lion's share of the load early on, but Javonte is the superior talent, and Gordon is 28 now. I mean, he's been pretty good, but 28 makes me nervous, especially with this rookie sitting there. He's got less mileage. He's been more effective. For me, I'm going to have a hard time going Melvin over Javonte just because, again, late part of the year, I can't – do you guys really think – like the Melvin Gordon guys, do you suspect that like week 15, 16, Melvin Gordon's going to be getting the more carries than Javonte, or more touches, I guess I should say, to be real more specific? Who's getting the most touches late season? Because I think –
So for real quick, for me, I think it kind of depends on how the season goes for Denver. In my mind, Denver, I mean, you're look at Denver's division. Are they competing really for the postseason? You think so?
Well, look, it's tough, but this defense is getting – I mean, this team is getting a lot back. Sutton was gone. Von Miller was gone. I didn't think their draft was pretty solid. It wasn't like spectacular per se, but I think this team – and let's just say, again, we've talked about it before, Aaron Rodgers winds up there, they're going to be going to the playoffs.
Sure. Aaron Rodgers – okay, so here's the deal. With Drew Lock, I'm going – with Melvin Gordon. If Aaron Rodgers shows up in town, that's a whole new ballgame. Because, yes, Javonte is probably more talented, but if they're playing in the playoffs, right, you think that it's on the back of Javonte? Because if it's not on the back of Javonte, Melvin Gordon is the dude. He's the veteran, right? So if Javonte is that athlete that is going to make Denver ascend and win, then yes, you're right. I'm going to go with Javonte. But if it goes the way I think it is, I think I'm going to stick with Melvin Gordon for me, right?
I think Melvin Gordon.
I do like – oh, I'm sorry. That's what I was going to say. I had that in the back of my mind. Sorry, but Ryan, I do like what you were saying, though, impossible upside. So, like in an upside play, it all depends on roster construction, right? And we'll talk about that as we mock draft here in the near future. But with roster construction the way it is, if it's one of my teams, right, that I'm so running back heavy on, Javonte might be the better play because I won't need a safe running back because I have a stable of running backs, right? So it just kind of depends on roster construction. So I kind of like that, Ryan.
Yeah, and I don't really dig the difference either. That's a big ADP gap.
Yeah, and
huge ADP gap.
Melvin Gordon's in a spot where he's out of there after this year. Javonte will be the guy. So the Broncos have no real reason to not run him into the ground, especially 7 teams getting into the playoffs. That it might be a situation where we just develop this team, maybe sneak in, maybe get on the cusp, and then we turn it over to Javonte next season. But I do think both guys have in that 200 touch range, so it'll be really interesting to see how the Broncos season shakes out.
You ready for this?
Yes.
So keep in mind, both of these guys have split backfields, right? You think about last year, MG3, you splitting it with Phillip Lindsay. Williams obviously splitting it with Carter, both of which had over 1,100. Carter, I believe, was over 1,200 yards. This is the man that got all the touchdowns, 19 rushing touchdowns with 3 receiving touchdowns. Absolutely impressive. And Chris, you asked about pass blocking. All right. Obviously, MG3, we've seen him do it. He can absolutely pass block. Javonte Williams, when he went into college, right, went into UNC, which was not a football school at the time.
Wait, is this about that body video that you sent us? Is that him?
No, this isn't that video.
Oh, okay.
I forget who that was. It might have been him. I think it was one of the UNC boys. I forget which one, but they're both great. But with Javonte Williams, he came out of high school. He said that they ran the wing tee. His quarterback at the end of the season of his senior year had probably about 50 yards. 50. They ran the ball. That was it. So he had no idea about pass protection, right? Didn't know the first thing about it. So you know what he spent the last couple years doing? Learning everything there is to know about pass protection.
I thought you were going to say learning everything about Gardner Minshew.
No, that's what I do.
It would have been more effective.
But Javonte Williams going into the draft thought that his pass blocking ability is what actually separated him into being the top running back prospect in this draft, above Najee, above ETN, right?
Okay.
So pass blocking's not a concern for him. He can do it. He will be on the field, second, third down, no questions asked, ready to block for the Glock, ready for this Denver offense to just go off. And I think that we could see this is one of those backfields that the numbers we're showing on the screen, around 1,000 yards for both, might not be that insane. I think knock them down a little bit, but I think we're talking probably 900, 800 for the two of them, somewhere around there. This is going to, if healthy, this is going to be a very high-powered offense. Very high-powered.
Probably a guy, Javonte, that if you're not drafting him, this is a guy that we're going to be talking about in week 2, week 3 on finding in your league and going and getting him, probably. You would think?
Probably. This is, like you said, this is the guy that you'll want late. First couple weeks of the season, they might kind of ease him into it a little bit. I think that could be accurate because you want to run MG3 into the ground. You want to get every bit of your money out of him. As terrible as that is to say, that's what football is, right? That's how this works. You're in your contract year. You're not aging. He's not old, but he is older. He's not a young buck anymore. They're going to run him into the ground. They don't care about your longevity. They want to get the most out of their money this year.
That's
so
fair.
They'll run him into the ground early in the season, let Javonte take those pass catching downs, the 25 receptions for 300 yards, splitting that. They both had 25 receptions down there in UNC. So he'll be able to catch the ball a bit early in the season. And then late in the season, when MG3 is just exhausted, it's Williams' time.
Okay.
Just in time for playoffs.
Okay. Well,
yep.
I think that this is the one that's going to take a little bit of time. We'll eat up a little bit of the clock just because it's a 3-on-1 right here with Cliff Kingsbury's offense. Guys, y'all take it away. I'll close it off. But this guy over here, Chase Edmonds, tell me why I'm so low on him, guys. Tell me why, because I love Cliff Kingsbury.
Efficiency.
So this one's really, really hard for me. One of the more difficult situations because I like both players. I kind of have a soft spot for Connor because that year Le'Veon Bell just kept not showing up. I picked him up and dominated with the guy that I got for a waiver wire acquisition. So I really like James Conner, the guy, but these are two very different guys. I'm just not a huge Connor fan after kind of how things shook out there in Pittsburgh as far as on my fantasy team situation. He's pretty okay after that one really stellar year, but Edmunds is a solid pass catcher, which I feel gives you more of a comfortable floor from a fantasy standpoint in the PPR format. And you don't necessarily consider Connor a receiving back yet. He had 55 catches that year in Pittsburgh, and Edmunds' career high is 53, which he just did last year. And Kenyon Drake had 50 receptions in 2019 when he got to Arizona. So, the more and more I sit here and shake it out, Connor may be more suited for the job. I'm going to lean Edmunds for now with the comfortability with already being in the offense, but I don't necessarily feel good about it. I'm kind of talking myself into Connor the more and more I'm digging into these guys, sitting here looking deeper and deeper and deeper.
Excellent. By the end of this, I'll take you over to the dark side, Billy.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is obviously a make or break season for Chase Edmonds. They've already talked about this. It's now or never, right? That's kind of the quote I've been seeing for him. If he doesn't take the job, then he's done in Arizona. They're not going to re-sign him after the rookie deal. I think that's pretty clear. But looking at his stats from last season, really the last two seasons actually, as the number 2 back, averaging 5.1 and 4.6 yards per attempt, and then receiving last year again as the number 2 back, 53 receptions for 402 yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. Those are pretty huge numbers for a guy that was behind, anybody else. So I think that the upside is definitely there for Edmunds. I think we'll see a bigger split than some people want to see for a running back. I think that 25-27 is probably pretty close to where they might end up, if not even down a little bit. I think their numbers will be fairly even, though. I think Edmunds gets the look just because he is the hometown guy there. He's been there a few years, and that's what edges him just a little bit above Connor.
Yeah, I mean, I know Billy mentioned earlier, I don't want to talk about injuries, but I see no way Connor makes it 16, and that's why I'm leaning Edmunds, because when Connor's out, or 17, excuse me, well, he's not going to make 16 either, likely. And that's what's the Edmunds thing for me. He's a more durable back. He is, in my opinion, the efficiency numbers for me jump off the table. Connor's living in the 4.5 to 4 range. Edmunds hasn't been there in the last 2 years. He's had better years, the last 2 years per carry, than Connor has ever had in his career. To me, with Kyler there, Kyler's going to vulture some of those rushing attacks that I would lean Connor's way because of the bit bigger guy. And Kyler's going to negate that in some sense. But I do see Edmunds dominating the pass catching, and I can see them being close enough in touchdowns that Edmunds edges him based sheerly off of the pass catching volume and the fact that I think their splits, he'll edge him on that too because of the games missed. I think the split's going to be relatively even, but Connor has just not shown me he can stay healthy, and the best ability is availability. And Chase Edmunds has been much more available than Connor has. This is a very high-powered offense. I really want my guy to be more pass-catching if I'm a running back here, and that leans, for me, to Edmunds, who has looked the part more so of the versatile pass-catching back. If I knew Connor would stay healthy 17, I'd probably switch. But I don't think that I'm going to get a full season out of him. Meanwhile, Edmunds has had less wear and tear. He'll get some leeway going through the season to be splitting the touches with Connor. However, he's never handled more than 100 rushes. 97 last year was his career year. That is concerning to me. That being said, he's still young. I saw what he can do. He looked better than Drake last year. So for me, I'm thinking that the natural growth in that offense, year two, familiarity with Kyler, that's all boding well for his success. He was reliable. I think all of us, whether what we felt about Edmunds coming into last year, after I saw the numbers compared to Drake, I was like, man, there was one of these guys was definitively better in a per touch basis, and it was Edmunds. It was not Kenyon Drake. So that moved me lower on Drake, and it made me think that Edmunds in this offense has real capability to be a flex type guy on my rosters. I love flexing running backs. He gives me help with the toughest position to keep healthy, running backs. He's been healthy. That's a big thing for me, and Connor just scares me off of him because of the injury concerns.
Just needs opportunity. That's the word for Edmunds, is opportunity.
Right. Opportunity. Let me tell you something, guys. So
Edmunds
talking about
this if he's not on the field.
We talk about this. Okay. First of all, right? This whole thing is in a vacuum, right? I'm not going to talk about any injuries because I don't know that. I can't predict that. So in a vacuum, draft day, the advice I'm giving my best friend right here is Chase Edmunds is going in the 64.5 range. James Conner is going at a 103.7 range. Okay, that's a huge gap because everyone thinks like this. Chase Edmunds is going to get the lion's share, blah, 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 blah. Well, this is a little history lesson, guys. Texas history starts right here, right now. Football in Texas, Cliff Kingsbury, San Antonio, Texas, went to the, Texas Tech coach, Texas A&M coach, went to all these things, greatness, right? If you look at his history, what his running backs looked like when he had a mobile quarterback, he had one guy getting the lion's share of stuff like last year. Yes, Chase Edmunds on paper was better, but Kenyon Drake was literally just ran into the ground. Like when you were like, okay, Kenyon Drake's getting the ball. Kenyon Drake got the ball. When you're like, okay, there's no way Kenyon Drake gets the ball. Kenyon Drake gets the ball. It's like the CEH stuff in the red zone. Like Cliff Kingsbury likes that. That's how he plays football. It's how we do it in Texas, right? Come on, Ryan. You know these things. James Conner fits the build, too, of a Cliff Kingsbury running back. If you look at the numbers for Chase Edmunds, yes, this is probably his last year. They say he is a running back one, which he showed last season when Kenyon Drake went down, but he has never eclipsed 35% of the snap share in his entire career. So why now would you change his workload in his last season when he's already been efficient doing this? Bring in a guy who can be your number one guy and just pound him into the ground. He's on a 1-year deal, right? I mean, James Conner, when he touches the ball, he gets you 1 yard. He gets you 1 fantasy point. If it's in PPR, if it's a reception, it's probably 2 right there. He is phenomenal, man. I mean, his story too is really good. And you got to follow the money sometimes. Cliff Kingsbury and the Arizona Cardinals did not spend all that money to bring him in on a 1-year deal just to sit there. They're winning this division. They're trying to win this division. They're not going to sit back and let Patrick Mahomes just roll in there. They saw what happened without a running back. And they're bringing one in. So I'm going James Conner, the huge gap. I think he's going to do better. He's my 23rd running back versus Chase Edmonds at 33. So I'm going James Conner. Did I convince anybody to come over with me?
Man, again, if he was healthy, I'd be there. If I knew he'd be healthy, I'm there. I'm with you there. I do think he would get the majority of touches if he was playing all the games. He's bigger. I'm more in liking his goal line potential. And I know we've seen the flashes, but I just can't get
Ryan, I know it's hard. Go back in our group text and go back when Billy and I were talking about the Cliff Kingsbury running backs, and I had like that huge thread of all the different running backs that Cliff Kingsbury's ran, and James Conner fits that build.
I think for me, it's one of those things where when I watch Chase Edmonds, I love the talent that he is, and I want to see him have that opportunity. But my fantasy heart, my fantasy gut is telling me James Conner's the play here, an incredible value that you're getting in that double-digit rounds. Or Chase Edmonds, we're chasing that hype a little bit still from a guy that we pump the brakes, really haven't seen it yet. I am starting to lean the other way really hard here by the second as we speak.
Excellent, excellent.
Chris, question for you. What were the ADPs?
Say what?
What were their ADPs?
Chase Edmonds 64.5 and James Conner 103.7 per underdog.
Do you want to know the answer here to who you pick?
Both.
Gardner Minshew.
Yeah. Well, Gardner
Minshew. That's not wrong. That's not wrong.
It's not wrong. Everyone should pick Gardner Minshew. He's the best answer. He's the best. He's better than the quarterback here in Arizona, evidently, based on the stats that I've provided.
Oh Lord, Tom!
They definitely aren't cherry picked or anything.
All right, we're gonna move on.
No. Hang on. But these two, handcuff.
Yeah,
James Conner's the handcuff. That's what it is.
Is he though?
Based on ADP. Based on ADP.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Based on ADP, he's the handcuff. You make sure that both of them are there. Whoever's getting the looks, like if week 1 you started Edmonds and you find that James Conner's getting 70% of the snaps at running back, obviously you're going to go with James Conner. But then week 5, when James Conner breaks his leg, I have Chase Edmonds. Yeah, and then James Conner comes back week 12, and you bump James Conner back in. And then week 13, he tears his Achilles. All right, Chase Edmonds back in.
Yeah, getting them both would be a nice situation. I like that.
Sure. That's a great situation. This is one of the handcuffs I like the best, actually. This and Denver are probably two of the ones that I really love those situations in a 1-year handcuffs scenario.
This is one of the backfields where it looks like that's what's happening in some leagues at 64 and then in 103. That's not terrible. We always say, we agree. We want Cliff Kingsbury's running back 1, right? Whoever that's going to be. And I think that's more the issue where if we knew for sure Chase Edmonds was the guy, I guess we would go with him. But I don't think it's that clear, at least for me. So
it's early still. That's the problem.
Very early. This is going to be fun off season, man. We have OTAs. We have all this stuff we didn't have last season. I mean, we have a lot of football to talk about, and my wife absolutely loves it.
Mine too.
Do they, though?
Not at all. Not at all.
No. But two guys that we do love, and this is the hardest one for me, I believe, just because they're both elite. We know how elite they are. But Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, I mean, these are guys that if both these guys are on your plate and the other one's not, you're not unhappy, right? And I think our consensus had him, right there ranked, or no, those are last year's ranked, but our consensus has him pretty close, I believe. So Tom and Billy on Dalvin, Ryan and myself on King Henry. Coin flip. Who wants to go first? Billy got it. He touched the mouse.
I'll roll. That's cool. So Dalvin Cook here for me. These are very similar guys, and if you look at their stats over the last few seasons, Dalvin Cook is kind of 1 year back on that progression as these guys turn into their elite selves. Derrick Henry had the 1,000-yard season, the 1,500-yard season, now the 2,000-yard season. Well, Dalvin Cook had the 1,000-yard season, the 1,500-yard season, and now we're leading into 2021 as he becomes more and more of a focal point and crossed that 300 touch mark, or 300 carry mark, I should say, last year. Derrick Henry, 378 carries after that 300 carry season. I see a lot of similar trends out of these guys, and I feel like where Derrick Henry was last year, he can't sustain that 2,000 yards, well over 5 yards per carry, and near 400 carries. And there is a little bit of concern for me for a guy that had nearly 700 carries over the last 2 seasons, over 700 touches. Tom and I talked about this a couple episodes ago, talking running backs. That obscene amount of carries for a guy is a little bit concerning. However, if there is one guy that breaks that mold, it's the freak that King Henry is. But Dalvin Cook, for me, also sets himself apart as a receiver. So if we're talking guys, if Derrick Henry's carries dial back to that 325 range, that's kind of where I expect Dalvin Cook to be, coming off 312 last year. And then so similar touches, similar yards per carry, similar rushing touchdown numbers. Break it down to receptions, where a guy like Dalvin Cook's going to get 60, maybe 70 targets, and at 45, 55 catch range. That sets him apart for me pretty significantly. That's 3, 4, 5 points a game for 2 guys that were really splitting hairs on. So that receiving upside for Dalvin Cook and a year behind in that progression marker kind of gives me a little bit more confidence with him into 2021 redraft. As far as dynasty goes, just to touch on that a little bit, Dalvin Cook way out there for me. As Chris, you and I were talking earlier, Derrick Henry kind of at the end of his prime. So this is a guy that you might sell while he still has value, Bill Belichick style, 1 year earlier than most.
On you, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, so don't get me wrong. Derrick Henry, obviously an incredible back. I believe it was back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons. Only one to do it.
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken, right? It's impressive, no question there. 17 rushing touchdowns is amazing. In a standard league, this is no question. It's Derrick Henry, to me at least, right? But in a PPR format, it becomes so clear it's Dalvin Cook all day long. This is a guy that not only is he a little bit younger, right? He's not had quite the beating of Derrick Henry. He also has a lot fewer touches, so a lot less wear and tear. His average yards per carry through the first 4 years of his career here, 4.8, 4.6, 4.5, and then 5 even last year. So we haven't seen a regression or improvement, really. It's stayed fairly consistent in that 4.5 to 5 yards per carry area, which is right where you want it. That's kind of that peak efficiency for a starting running back, especially a guy with as many touches a year as he gets, kind of in that, going from 133, 18, 250 last year, and then 312 in 2020, obviously pretty impressive. Receptions also over the last 3 years has been at or above 40 receptions on about 50 or more targets. So all those factors combined, this is a guy that I want on every team I can get him when comparing to Derrick Henry, and especially in a dynasty league. Chris, I think it was you today selling King Henry, 27 years old. I mean, he's incredible. This is peak Derrick Henry sell time to get the most value. This is if you're in stonks. I don't know if any of you guys are in on like Dogecoin or whatever movie theater it was that Robinhood decided to fuck over today. You're at the peak, and then Robinhood is currently freezing trading on Derrick Henry, and then tomorrow it's just gonna go. That's where we're at.
Shout out to the guys in the UK for the Ryder Bowl. Billy's rocking the shirt tonight. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier today. I mean, Derrick Henry, gotta love him in redraft, right? That's why I'm choosing him. But I'll touch on Dynasty, obviously, Ryder Bowl Dynasty. I shipped him off. I'll toot my own horn real quick for about 4 ones. I mean, there's multiple trades, right? CMC's involved. I ended up with Dalvin Cook on my team with like a boatload of ones. I mean, I'm Najee this year too. So, I mean, I'm looking pretty for 2023 coming at you as a young gun. Ryder Bowl, Tiger Woods division. Bobby Cables no longer will win that division, but that's okay. Talking about in redraft though for 2021, they're very similar, right? In ADP 2.2 for Dalvin, 3.9 for Derrick Henry, so a little bit lower, right? ADP is going with the catching upside, but guys, there's vacated targets over here in Tennessee. We all know Anthony Firsker. We toot his horn all the time. That's one of our guys. But what if Derrick Henry starts catching more balls? I mean, look, he's got 19 receptions to Dobbins' 44 last season. Every year, Derrick Henry has gotten better. Like we mentioned, Tom is always talking about efficiency, how Zeke, quote unquote, is getting worse year after year, right? It's circumstance. But on paper, yes, he's getting worse and worse. Derrick Henry is getting better year after year. I mean, better year after year. What can he do next year to get better? Is catch 30 balls? Ooh, Derrick Henry catches 30 balls. He's getting at least 300 yards. I'm thinking. I mean, he's gonna bulldoze over. That 300 yards probably a lot. Let's go 225. Sure. Let's go.
He's averaged over 10. He's averaged over 10 3 of his 5 years. So I don't think 300 is a lot.
So there we go.
I think you're right on the money there.
There we go. Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, something like that. Well, Derrick Henry, guys, is first in the league at created yards. You know that. Almost 1,000 yards he's created, 2.51 per touch, 15.42 touches per game since his inception in the league. And every year they go up and up. Last year with his biggest way, I think like at 28. Now, think if they convert some of those to passes, little dump offs, things like that, his efficiency goes way, way up, I believe. And I think in redraft, man, I think Derrick Henry is going to be moving up in my ranks. I've got him at number 8 right now, and I've got Dalvin at number 5. But I'm just thinking like 1 through 5, I'm probably getting Zeke, right? At the back end of that, maybe I go King Henry, something like that. That's pretty scary. So I don't know. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Derrick Henry?
You said a lot of what my thoughts are. How does this guy keep getting better? I remember after last year, we were like, oh, he had 300 touches. It's going to be a concern. He just popped out 378 rushes for over a 2,000-yard season and 17 touchdowns. Like, there's nothing, not a single statistical thing that Henry has not improved in every single year that he has been in the league. Now, yes, he's 27, about the age where, like you said, in Dynasty, it might be time to look before it's too late. But in redraft, Derrick Henry legitimately possesses RB1 upside despite the lack of targets and receptions. All you got to do is add 10 receptions to that, and you're looking at an entirely different thing in PPR because, again, let's just say he gets more than 378 rushes this year, more than 2,000 yards rushing. We're entering into territory now that is very rarely touched by any running back in the league. Yes, I love Dalvin Cook. This really isn't an attack on me. As far as my projections go, I have Henry 3 and Cook 4. So we're splitting hairs here with these two guys. I want both of them if I can do it. But when I look at Derrick Henry, I look at the offense there. I mean, nothing wrong with Minnesota's offense, but I'm a huge A.J. Brown fan. I think the passing game is going to take a step evolution-wise, which, while that may touch a tiny bit on Henry's carries, it should continue to let him have his yards per attempt go up, which, again, my God, guys, like 5.4 last year on 378 targets. Does that ever happen? Ever? Not targets, touches, rushes.
I don't think so.
That's preposterous at that volume. Humans don't do this. Like, this is a different thing than anything else we've seen as far as the ground game goes. Nobody has run like this. Nobody has been this dominant on the ground. And what's crazy is everybody and their mother knew he was going to get it after his 300-yard touch, and all he did was get better. Like, it's remarkable what this guy's doing, and I'm now stopping and thinking that, oh no, after that big workload, he's likely going to regress. I have him projected for 1,900 yards rushing, and I think I'm going to have to up it. Like, again, he just continues to improve. And why am I sitting here? By the way, he has missed 2 games in 5 years. Dalvin has missed more than that. Once again, availability. I dig Derrick Henry's availability at that size with the amount of punishment he delivers and the amount of touches he gets. The fact that he hasn't really missed but 1 game in the last 4 years and 2 in his career, that's more than Dalvin misses on an every year basis. Like, it's a crazy thing to think about the availability of a guy that plays football like Derrick Henry does. He's just indomitable. He's an alien. It's amazing. The production on the ground, the safety is there, the floor is there. Dalvin Cook with a bit more injury concern, and I think I do. Again, Dalvin Cook's playing in a tougher division, in my opinion, than Derrick Henry is when you get the cakewalk defenses of Houston and Jacksonville. Now, yeah, you got to deal with Indy, but I'll take Indy twice if I can get Jacksonville and Houston twice. Why would you stop doing what works so well for you so far? AJ
Ron,
Brown.
I was gonna say he's gonna have 1,000 yards just between Houston and Jacksonville this season.
For sure. For sure. Why?
So,
I mean,
just to answer your question, you asked if this had ever been done, so I was curious about Chris Johnson, the other Titan back, CJ2K. In 2009, when he had his 2,000-yard season, 358 carries, 5.6 yards a carry. And he also followed that up with a 316 carry season the very next year. So he held
that's
up
impressive.
pretty well also. But, yeah, 5.6 yards a carry. Obviously, CJ2K hit a lot of really big plays. Derrick Henry doesn't necessarily do it quite the same way, but, man, really interesting. 2 Titan backs. Pretty impressive.
So
Derrick
with that being
Henry
said,
has his
though,
own way, though, baby.
hey, for the record, Dalvin Cook, it's not that 350, but 312 last year at 5 yards a carry. I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at, and obviously, 0.5, 0.6 yards per carry over an extra 40 carries is a big deal.
Yeah,
but the difference we're seeing, exactly, the difference is the receptions. That's where these guys are ranked 2 and 3 last year. We have them kind of right around that. They're about 1 off of each other, I think, for all of us. Again, this is one of those ones that's a coin flip. Depends on who you like better, what your preference is. I think you're going to win with either of them, but it's, with Dalvin Cook, his yards per carry slightly lower on a few less running attempts, but he has a few more receptions last year, a little over 20, about 25 receptions there. That's the difference in a PPR league. In a non-PPR, again, Derrick Henry's the guy, to me at least. I don't know about you, Billy, but
Here's my question. How many teams y'all have with that has Alexander Madison on it? How many teams do you have that have the other Titans running back?
if you do have
if I have Dalvin Cook, I have Alexander Madison. Literally every share of Dalvin Cook is paired up. I don't have a whole lot of Derrick Henry. I do have a couple 2-3 shares of Derrick Henry in Dynasty, and I do not have another Titan running back, period.
There's one other running back that's the same way, though. Do you know who it is? There's one other running back I have who's the same exact way as Dalvin Cook, though. Do you want to know who it is?
Saquon Barkley.
No, Ezekiel Elliott. I have Tony Pollard every time because Tony Pollard is an efficient running back.
Yeah, he's good. I like
Pollard. In the comments, it's something we saw. Tony Pollard on a lot of teams would be at least a rotational starting back. He might not be a clear.
No, on my teams.
One. Yeah.
Tony Pollard, someone else's team. I'll take Alexander Madison.
Yeah, not even the same.
Brian, were you there with me?
Alexander Madison.
Yes, 100%. I think it's very similar, except that Zeke hasn't had the same minor. I mean, Dalvin has had more health issues, so yeah, I'll lean Madison. But the thing is, Pollard has proven himself incredibly efficient and effective with the ball in his hands. I think he's another weapon.
If the Cowboys are smart, they give Pollard the ball more to actually extend Zeke's career rather than keep pounding the ball with Zeke. Because if you do, we talked about it a million times, the number of touches that guy has, it's going to come to an end. It has to.
Let me slam the door on the Madison Pollard talk here. When Alexander Madison plays, he gets you Dalvin Cook-like production. Tony Pollard is good, is solid at a flex player level. Alexander Madison, RB1, RB2. As soon as he goes out there, you have a quality playing running back. He is a poor man's Dalvin Cook. I mean, hairstyle, everything. You could almost confuse these guys. The Vikings did a very good job finding themselves a guy that can adequately fill in for Dalvin Cook, who also hasn't missed time in a few years now. So I'm kind of over the injury concern with him. But Madison, I think Madison could start on a lot of teams. He's got a real comfortable role there behind Dalvin Cook.
I will say Pollard has a better yards per rush than Madison does over their 2-year careers. I believe he has more touchdowns too. Yes, he has touchdowns of Madison on the ground and double the touchdowns of Madison through the air. He has 187 touches, whereas Madison has 196 rushes. So in less touches, Pollard had better yards per carry, more touchdowns, and more receptions. I think that Pollard has really been getting slept on. And if, God forbid, anything did happen to Zeke, Pollard raises way the heck. I just think that Zeke's healthier than Cook. Not that, again, like Billy said, Cook gave 14 games last year. I'm cool with that. I'm really cool with that. But Henry's not missing games, and Zeke hasn't really missed the same amount of games. So that's where my love for Madison comes from, is that 1 or 2 game, they might even sit Dalvin Cook. Say they're making a playoff run and they're in, they may give Dalvin Cook a game off, and boy, Madison becomes really valuable when something like that happens. I don't see them doing that with Zeke as much. I don't really think that Zeke is going to be sitting regardless. Dallas is in for the win this year. They have to try to win. And so, yeah, Zeke may be getting – I mean, again, I'm with you guys on Zeke. I like him a lot more than a lot of people are giving credit. I just don't like him as much as you guys. And the same thing for the Madison and Pollard debate. Like, yeah, I'm probably going to get Madison more, but I'd love to tag team a little Pollard action up, because God forbid something happens with Zeke. Pollard has proven more than capable of being a competent back. I mean, he has 43 receptions as well, whereas Madison is sitting at 23 for his career. So he's basically doubling him up in every single category, because I think partially, A, they had that really solid line when he first started, and B, I know that Jefferson's good, but the receiving weapons there are so incredible in Dallas that it makes defenses, when Zeke's not on the field, they're not worried about Pollard so much. And I think that the same can't as much be said for Madison, who really still keeps defense's attention based on the lack of, okay, they have 2 fantastic receivers rather than 3. And that's going to make a difference for me as well. Also, Dak over Cousins every day of the week. And that's where also I'm going to be leaning. So I think it's the same way that people sleep on Madison a little bit. I think Pollard gets slept on the same way.
Yeah, real quick, this Vikings offensive line seems like it's on the upswing, headed towards that Dallas a few years ago. I mean, just super quick, they just brought in Christian Darrisaw at left tackle, Garrett Bradbury playing decent at center, Ezra Cleveland to right guard, Brian O'Neill right tackle, not bad. Dakota Dozier probably the worst option at left guard, but they brought in Wyatt Davis behind him. I mean, that's an offensive line on the upswing. I don't dislike it. I think this just gets better and better for these backs, these quarterbacks, everyone on that team.
It's an interesting one. God, these guys are good.
Last one real quick. I don't think any of us have a ton, but it's an interesting one to talk about, right?
So we got Austin Eckler and J.K. Dobbins. Tom, since you're such an Austin Eckler truther, you can start us off.
I'm not an Austin Eckler truther. The whole reason for this is fuck Lamar Jackson.
There's a lot of that going on here too, because I love JK.
Talk about this one so bad.
Yeah, I like JK too, but I'm right there with you, Tom. I'm not really into this offense as much as I would have been in the past. Even though, God, I love JK. I feel bad.
Yeah. If Trace McSorley came in, J.K. Dobbins, at least a high-end RB2 for me. I'll put it that way. That's all I'm going to say, and I'm done on this one.
I got a mid-range RB2 for Dobbins, and I have Eckler at 11, and it all has to do with what I just got done arguing about against Derrick Henry. He gets a crazy amount of pass volume. It's very difficult to ignore. I love Herbert a lot, and I like this offense this year. I think it's going to be prolific. I think Eckler will be a big piece of that passing game. when I look at my projections and I'm looking, he's very anomalously placed up there with his rushing yards total. He just doesn't get it the same way. He doesn't get those rushing touchdowns either. But goodness gracious, the pass catching capabilities, especially with a guy like Herbert, who I think is going to be taking a big step forward. And then I look on the other side and I see JK with Lamar Jackson, and I'm just like, nah, man, I can't. I don't like. Maybe not to the same level as Tom, but I really don't like Lamar Jackson. And that's where this is coming from for me, because I love J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, so opposite side of the coin for me, I love J.K. Dobbins, 6 yards per carry, you guys. That's incredible. A guy that had not really a real workload, kind of that JTT syndrome late in the season got going. This guy had Mark Ingram on the sidelines in street clothes, healthy. And this is a guy that was a leader in this locker room, and guys still love the guy for the the influence that he was. So J.K. Dobbins taking over that role, sat him on the sidelines. So that says a lot to me. I am not an Austin Eckler guy. One outlier of a season where Phillip Rivers dumped it off 3 million and 12 times to Austin Eckler has a lot of people really inflated on his value. If you're an Austin Eckler guy, I want you to take 5 minutes of your time and do me a favor. Go to Sleeper, type in Darren Sproles, and look at his production. And if it doesn't mirror what Austin Eckler is already starting to put down for you, and you still want to take this guy in the first round, please come join leagues with me. No Austin Eckler. Don't do it.
Well, according to Underdog, Austin Eckler is getting taken at 13.8 roughly, and our man J.K. Billy 28.4.
No, at 13.8. No.
Blasphemous. That is fantasy blasphemy.
I've got J.K. as my 10th running back overall, 300 points. Last season, like Billy mentioned, they didn't give him the lion's share. He's going to get the lion's share this year, guys. He had a 47% snap share last year. Austin Eckler, over 3 seasons, a 53% snap share. Yes, I mean, Melvin Gordon was there. He had the outlier season as well, like Billy mentioned. But, I mean, JK is in a run-heavy offense. Greg Roman's offense runs the most running plays in the division. And also, Greg Roman scores the most fantasy points for your fantasy teams per NFL stats. J.K. Dobbins, they're going to try to keep Lamar healthy this year. Probably throw it a little bit more, but keeping Lamar healthy is going to be key. So they're not going to run him. He's not going to run it in the red zone. JK, in my mind, is going to get these touches. JK was the only rookie running back to score an octopus. Regardless of rookie running back, one of the only running backs to score an octopus last season. That's a touchdown and the immediate 2-point play right afterwards against my Houston Texans. His return to Texas, absolutely phenomenal. J.K. Dobbins also setting rookie records, mirroring Todd Gurley with the amount of touchdowns per game. It's essentially a touchdown per game. Come on. I mean, J.K. Dobbins at 28.4, that's blasphemy right there. I'm rolling J.K. all day, ride or die this season, sophomore year.
At those ADPs, I'm with you. At those ADPs, I'm 100% on the J.K. over Eckler. When you're getting him, again, he's my RB 11, but there isn't a lot of differentiation between him and the guys just below him. And I have Dobbins he's my RB 10. That daggum list has the first one that says name on it, so it throws me off. And then I have Dobbins at 17. There's not a huge difference between them. And at that kind of value differentiation, good God, I didn't realize that for me, Eckler can't go that early because I don't think he has the same kind of safe floor that a guy like Dobbins would have.
So real quick, Billy brought up Darren Sproles, and it made me realize the team for these PPR running backs is the Chargers, whatever town they're in at that point, whether it's San Diego, Los Angeles, Timbuktu, I don't give a shit. Darren Sproles, Danny Woodhead, Austin Eckler. I mean, come on. They love these dudes that are like 5'6", just tiny little dudes that catch the ball out of the backfield. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
Hey, Darren Sproles also had an RB6 year, followed by several years in the mid-20s, kind of like Austin Eckler's already blueprinted for you. Very similar. I sent it to you guys in the group chat. Check it. Interesting stuff.
I just don't see JK holding up. I think he's like somebody said in the chat here.
Real deal, man.
It was.
J.K. Dobbins from Texas.
Yeah, clock management. He's capped. He's capped because Lamar Jackson caps that offense. I hate to say it, he does. He caps the offense. You bring in Trace McSorley, everyone does better because he's not running 1,000 yards at the quarterback position.
This is a very run-happy offense, and between J.K. and Gus Edwards, both guys were really productive running backs. I think J.K. getting a bigger snap share will be extremely relevant. I mean, he only played over 60% of the snaps a few times on the back half of the season. I think it goes up, and J.K. got more and more productive the more and more work he got.
I just got a comment that Danny Woodhead, Clock Management, is in my charity league. We got to get that guy in the St. Jude Bowl.
Yeah, let's get Danny Woodhead.
Give him the St. Jude Bowl, get him on the show. Let's go.
Chadron State, little Nebraska boy.
Speaking of the St. Jude Bowl, guys, let's talk about the St. Jude Bowl. Let's cap the show off, talk about that one more time, and let's give our sign-offs, guys. Tom, kick it off.
Hey, I'm excited for this Vampire League. I see it sitting in there. I'm ready for it to start filling up. I know that's probably not the most popular league we've got. It's not one I've done before, but I'm very excited to be the vampire in that league. So something that I got the incisors that people always talked about, right? I was born for this role. But hey, if you're interested, make sure you sign up. Billy and Ryan know all the details on this stuff. I just try and keep up with it, and my memory is not there for it. But hit me up on on Twitter at FFRTom. If you need help getting in touch with anybody, I can always get you in touch with those guys or get answers for you, help you out with getting signed up. Or if you just want to shoot the shit, talk about how great Minshew is and how he needs to start a job somewhere, I'm always happy to do so.
Every day. Yeah, guys, the St. Jude Bowl, we could not be more excited. We're really looking forward to seeing how much money we can raise this year for St. Jude. And I'm going to win this thing this year. It made me really mad last year. No more Michael Thomas. That's going to be my motto. It's going to probably be my team name. Just running backs in the first round. I'm an idiot. Shouldn't have done that. And I learned my lesson the hard way. Problem is, man, AJB, I have such a hard time not taking AJB, but no, running backs for me, especially in this singular quarterback situation. I can't wait, guys. I hope some of you guys get in my division so I can smack talk y'all live on the air.
Yeah, I second that notion, Ryan. I took Patrick Mahomes first round because I picked at the end of round one, and man, I was pissed most of the year at how my team shook out. So I won't do that again. Got a little too cute there. Try to get my hands on Patty Mahomes. But, yeah, we have the link pinned on our Twitter, so check us out. Give us a follow there and click the link. We see your registrations coming. We're getting correspondence back to collect payments so we can start getting these divisions filled. I've noticed a couple coming in on the air, so appreciate you guys for that have registered while we've been on the show here. So it's a really kick-ass event. Big prize money. That's what separates the St. Jude Bowl from the other charity leagues is, hey, we donate as well. Half of our money goes to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, great cause, and half of it goes to the winner, the champ. I mean, bragging rights. We got Trophy Smack supplying us with a trophy for you guys, and we're going to start doing some virtual stuff to kind of keep track of place winners and maybe start like a little Hall of Fame type thing or commemorate some really awesome performances. So Rusty Meyer won it last year, $1,200 in his pocket. He needs a lunch with Alvin Kamara for that 6-touchdown performance. Made Rusty a very happy man last year. So come join us. Take your swing at it. Let's see what you got.
Justin, I don't think you're wrong. Michael Thomas's ADP is pretty much a steal, but I mean, I just still don't. I'm not getting. I'd rather take Julio right there, I suppose, maybe something like that. But guys, sign up for that St. Jude Bowl. It's gonna be a fun event. We're gonna crush last year's donation, and the winner's going to pocket a little bit more cash this year, so that's going to be super fun. Obviously, this was a battle show, trying like a Mortal Kombat video game type thing. Try to do the hearts. I got like 13. I'm going to try to get to 13,000 before we end this, so I'm going to talk a little bit longer. But everyone who is watching, thank you so much for supporting us. Obviously, we're the Fantasy First Rounders. Ryan, Billy, Tom, I'm Chris. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks, guys.